As dusk settled, Santiago arrived at an abandoned chapel with his flock of sheep. The roof had long collapsed, and a towering sycamore tree had rooted where the sacristy once stood. Planning to rest there for the night, he guided the sheep inside through the broken entrance and placed wooden boards across the opening to keep them from wandering off. Although wolves were rare in the area, one sheep had previously gone missing at night, forcing him to spend an entire day searching. He swept the dusty floor with his jacket, lay down, and used the book he had just finished as a pillow. He reminded himself to pick thicker books next time. They lasted longer and made for better cushions. Still under the early morning sky, Santiago woke up and saw the stars through the ruined ceiling. "I wish I could sleep a little longer," he thought. Once again, he had dreamed the same dream as the week before, and once again, he had awakened just before it reached the end. He rose to his feet, grabbed his shepherd's staff, and began rousing the still sleeping flock. He had noticed that his sheep tended to wake up shortly after he did, as though their lives were somehow connected. "They must have synced to my routine," he muttered. Then he considered, perhaps it was he who had adjusted to theirs. Some of the sheep were slower to rise. Santiago gently nudged them awake, calling them by name, as he always did. He believed the animals could understand him. Sometimes, he read passages from his books aloud, sections that had left an impression on him. At times, he would speak to them of his solitude, or the joys of shepherding across Andalusia's fields. He even shared observations about the villages they passed, but lately, he spoke of only one thing: a girl. She was the daughter of a merchant in a village he planned to reach in 4 days. Santiago had visited that place only once, a year ago. The merchant ran a dry goods store and insisted on watching the sheep get sheared himself to ensure no cheating occurred. A friend had recommended the shop, so Santiago brought his flock there. "I need to sell some wool," he told the merchant. The store was crowded, and the merchant told Santiago to wait until the afternoon. So, he sat on the doorstep and pulled a book from his bag. "I didn't know shepherds could read," came a girl's voice from behind him. The girl had the distinctive beauty of Andalusia, with flowing black hair and deep eyes that seemed to echo the history of Moorish ancestry. "Honestly, I've learned more from my flock than from any book," the boy replied with a gentle smile. They spent nearly 2 hours talking. She revealed that she was the daughter of a merchant and described the slow, repetitive rhythm of village life, where each day felt like the last. The shepherd shared tales from the Andalusian countryside and news from various towns he had passed through on his journey. Talking with her was a refreshing change from his usual conversations with the sheep. "Where did you learn to read?" she asked, curiosity lighting up her eyes. "Just like everyone else, at school," he replied simply. "But if you can read, why are you just a shepherd?" she asked innocently. He mumbled something vague, avoiding the question entirely. He knew she wouldn't understand his real reason. So instead, he continued telling her stories of his travels. Her wide, hazel eyes glistened with both wonder and a hint of fear. As the afternoon went on, the boy found himself wishing that time would freeze, that the merchant would stay busy and keep him waiting another 3 days. For the first time in his life, he felt something new, a yearning to settle down in one place. with the girl who had hair as black as a raven's wing. From that moment on, his life would never feel quite the same. Eventually, the merchant showed up and asked Santiago to shear 4 sheep. He paid for the wool and told the boy to return the following year. Now, it was just 4 days until he'd see that village again. He felt excited and nervous. "Maybe she's already forgotten me," he said quietly to the sheep. "There are plenty of other girls in other towns," he added, though in his heart, he knew it wasn't true. He also understood a truth that most wandering souls eventually learn, that shepherds, sailors, and traveling merchants always find someone, somewhere, who makes them question the freedom of life on the road. As the sun rose, Santiago gently urged his flock forward, walking toward the light. They never have to make choices, he thought. Maybe that's why they always stay close to me. All the sheep cared about was food and water. As long as Santiago knew where to find the greenest fields in Andalusia, they would follow him faithfully. Yes, their days were always the same, long hours stretching from sunrise to sunset. They had never opened a book or understood the sights of the cities the boy described. But they were content with just food and drink, and in return, they gave him wool, companionship, and occasionally, their lives. If I became a monster and started killing them one by one, he thought, they wouldn't even notice until most of them were gone. They trust me so much that they've forgotten how to rely on their own instincts, because I always bring them to food. He was startled by the harshness of that thought. Maybe that old church with the sycamore tree really is haunted, he mused. It made me dream the same dream twice, and now it's making me feel resentment toward my loyal flock. He took a sip of leftover wine from the night before and pulled his jacket tighter against the morning chill. He knew that soon, when the sun reached its highest point, the heat would be too intense to continue walking through the fields. It was the hour when all of Spain paused for the midday summer siesta. And the heat lasted until evening. During those hours, he would have to carry his jacket, but when he thought about complaining, he remembered something. Thanks to his jacket, the boy had managed to endure the early morning chill. We must always be ready for change, he thought, feeling a quiet gratitude for the warmth and weight of the coat. The jacket served its purpose, just as he had his own reason for being. His life's calling was to journey, to explore. That was his personal legend. After 2 years roaming the lands of Andalusia, he had become familiar with nearly every town and village in the region. On this upcoming visit, he planned to explain to the girl why a simple shepherd could read. He had studied at a seminary until the age of 16. His parents had dreamed of him becoming a priest, something that would bring pride to their humble farming family. They had worked hard, simply to have food and water. Much like the sheep he now tended, he had learned Latin, Spanish, and theology. But even as a child, his heart longed not for the church, but for the world. One afternoon during a visit home, he summoned the courage to tell his father he didn't want to become a priest. People from around the world have passed through this village, his father said. They come searching for something new. But in the end, they leave the same as they arrived. They climb hills to view ancient castles, then walk away thinking that the past was better than the present. They may have blonde hair or darker skin, but at their core, they're no different from us. Still, I want to see the castles where they live. The boy responded, those people often say they'd like to live here forever. Once they see our land. His father replied, and I'd like to see where they come from, and how they live. The boy said, they can afford to travel because they have money. Among our people, only shepherds are free to roam. Then I'll become a shepherd. The boy declared. His father said nothing more. The next morning, he handed his son a pouch containing 3 old Spanish gold coins. I found these in the field one day. I had planned to leave them to you as your inheritance. But use them to buy your first flock. Travel far and wide. One day, you'll see that our land is the finest. And our women the most beautiful. Then, he gave his son his blessing. The boy saw something flicker in his father's eyes, a buried longing. A quiet fire still alive beneath the years of struggle. His father had hidden that desire behind the routine of daily survival, food, water, a place to sleep. The sky turned red, and the sun emerged suddenly beyond the horizon. As the boy remembered their conversation, he felt a sense of peace and fulfillment. He had already seen castles and met many women, but none could compare to the girl waiting in the village. He owned a coat, a book he could exchange, and a loyal flock. Most importantly, he was living his dream, day by day. If someday he grew tired of the Andalusian hills, he could sell the sheep and sail the oceans. And when he tired of the sea, he would have already discovered new towns, new people, and new chances for joy. I could never have found God in the seminary, he thought, watching the sunrise blaze across the horizon. Whenever he could, he chose a new path, never repeating the old. That ruined church he'd slept in, he had passed nearby many times before, but had never explored it. The world was vast, endless, and all he had to do was allow the sheep to guide him from time to time. The problem is, he thought, they don't even realize they're walking a new path every day. They don't realize these are new fields. The boy thought, and the seasons are changing. All the sheep cared about was food and water. Maybe we're just like them. The boy reflected, even me. I haven't thought of any girl since I met the merchant's daughter. As he glanced at the sun, he calculated that he would arrive in Tarifa before noon. There, he planned to trade his current book for a thicker one, refill his wine bottle, get a shave, and a haircut. He wanted to look his best when he saw the girl again, and avoided thinking about the chance that another shepherd, with a bigger flock, might have arrived first and proposed to her. It's the possibility of a dream coming true that makes life interesting, he thought, checking the sun's position and quickening his steps. Suddenly, he remembered that Tarifa had an old woman who interpreted dreams. She led him into a small room in the back of her house, separated from the living space by a curtain made of colorful beads. The room had simple furnishings, a table, a picture of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, and 2 chairs. The old woman sat down and motioned for him to do the same. She took both of his hands in hers and began to pray softly in what sounded like a gypsy language. The boy had encountered gypsies on the road before. They wandered too, but without flocks. People said gypsies spent their lives tricking others, made deals with the devil, and kidnapped children to enslave them in their mysterious camps. As a child, he had been terrified of being captured by them. That childhood fear returned the moment she held his hands. At least she has an image of the Sacred Heart, he thought, trying to calm himself. He didn't want his hands to tremble. So he silently recited the Lord's Prayer. Interesting, the woman said, never looking away from his hands. Then she fell silent. The boy began to feel uneasy. His hands started to shake. And she sensed it. He quickly pulled his hands back. I didn't come here for palm reading, he said, now regretting his visit. Maybe he should just pay and leave. Perhaps he was placing too much importance on this recurring dream. You came to learn about your dreams, she said. Dreams are the language of God. When he speaks in human language, I can interpret it, but if he speaks in the language of the soul, only you can understand it. Either way, I still charge for my services, she added. Another scam, the boy thought. But he decided to take the risk. A shepherd is always facing risks, wolves, drought, and that's what makes his life exciting. I've had the same dream twice, he began. I dreamed I was in the fields with my sheep, when suddenly a child appeared and began playing with them. I usually don't like strangers around my flock, but children always seem to manage it without scaring them. I don't know why. I don't know how animals sense a human's age. Tell me more about the dream, the woman said. I need to get back to cooking. And since you don't have much money, I can't spend too long. The child played with the sheep for a while. The boy continued, slightly annoyed. Then suddenly, the child took my hands and transported me to the Egyptian pyramids. He paused, watching to see if the woman recognized the place, but she said nothing. At the pyramids, he said, slowly pronouncing each word, the child told me, if you come here, you'll find a hidden treasure. And just as the child was about to reveal the exact location, I woke up. Both times, the woman stayed silent for a moment, then held his hands again, examining them carefully. I won't charge you anything right now, she said, but if you find the treasure, I want 10%. The boy laughed aloud, overcome with joy. That was the first part of The Alchemist. Subscribe to English Listening Stories so you won't miss the next episodes, and don't forget to hit the bell, like, share, and comment to support the channel. Watch more to improve your English every day.